being recorded. I'll share the link after everything's all set up. And also recorded is the questions and any of the chats that are going on. Just be aware that they are recorded as well. The other thing is everyone on this call is on mute. The reason we do that is because with close to 50 people, and I mean, we can have up to 100 people on this call, but with 50 people on the call, the background noise would be really, really bad no matter what we try to do. So if you have a question, I encourage you to ask it, and you can ask the question by typing it in the question blank that's on your toolbar. If by chance I do not get to answer your question on this call, I will follow up with an email, or I will get back to you via phone in order to answer any questions you may have. Now, the purpose of this call is an introduction to Google Apps for Education. We want to show you what's available for you and your students. We want to show you how, in the long run, how it's going to interface with Moodle. And this is sort of a first session out of two. The second session, which is going to be the Google Drive one, which will be in 2 weeks, is actually the part that will show you the interface for Moodle. But first, we want to show you what the Google Apps for Education and how your students can access it. And we want to get that out of the way first. So hopefully someone can let me know if you can see my screen. It would be great. I right now have a browser window up with Google Apps. Thank you for the people who just let me know. Okay, Google Apps for Education is basically the Google Suite. Okay, all of our students get it with their student email address. Okay, so when we assign their name, their ID at email.google.com, we're actually giving them a free subscription to Google Apps. So they have everything we're going to talk about already. Now, for instructors who want Google Apps, you have to request a .edu email address. Your .com email address does not give you access to the Google Apps Suite. So if you would like to have access to the Google Apps, you have to add a bug. And I know, but you have to add a bug into pcibugs.mportfolios.net, and you have to request a .edu email address. Make sure you put in that bug what campus you're on and what department and what your Porter Chester email address is. Okay, so for students to access it or for you to access Google Apps, you're going to start off on our standard porterchester.edu page. Okay, when you go to porterchester.edu, you're put onto a student services page on our website, and you're going to select the Google Application Suites for Students. Now, I'll show you in a minute what the iPad interface looks like as well, because the students can access this, and you can access this through your iPads as well. But to access it through a browser, you'll go to the Google Application Suite for Students, and then you're going to be asked to log in using your .edu email address. It will not work with your .com. Once you are logged into your .edu email address, you're going to see a screen that looks very much like the one that I have up right now. Okay, it's the inbox. It's the standard Google inbox. Okay, nothing major about it except it will have the Porter and Chester, the old logo. We haven't changed it to the new logo yet. You will have 9 little dots up here where my mouse is hovering right now on the top right-hand side. When you click on those 9 dots, you will then have a choice of some other things to do. The Google search is just the standard Google page. Everyone's familiar with how to search on Google, or I hope so. The Google Mail is the page that you default get on as a student or as an instructor logging into your .edu email. The one we're really interested in is the little triangle-looking thing that says Drive. When you click on that, you get redirected to the Google Drive. Okay, and this is the starting point for all of the apps for education. Okay, so The students have storage. They have 30 gig of storage available for free out there, which actually helps quite a lot when we're talking about that they have a backup for their iPad. They can put documents out here, and we'll show you how that goes as we move through this session, okay, as we move through this series of webinars. But they have a lot of storage out here. Now, they can create and edit documents here as well, and this is where it becomes really important because this is free. When we purchase things, when we have to purchase other apps and stuff like that, it costs money, but this is all free. Okay, so let's say you have a student who you want to be able to, you want them to turn in a homework assignment that's typewritten, or you want them to answer end of chapter questions and stuff like that. They can go into their Drive account and they can click the Create button, and they can select either a document, a presentation, a spreadsheet, a form, or a drawing. Okay, now document is Word, and I'll show you that in a second. Presentation is basically PowerPoint. Spreadsheet is Excel. All the functionality, the Microsoft apps are here, okay? And drawing is just, I'll show you in a minute, but it's basically just a generalized drawing tool. Nothing as fancy as AutoCAD or anything like that, but it actually does pretty well for schematics and stuff like that. So if I wanted to create a new document, or if I want my students to create a new document, I would click on Document. Now, what comes up here should look relatively familiar. You have a blank document, okay? You have all your toolbars here with history. You can do formatting. You can choose text styles, fonts, text sizes, bold, underline, and all of this other stuff, okay? And then to name the document, because these things self-save. They automatically save like every 10 seconds, okay? But you have to give it a name. So we might give it a, in this case, I'm just going to say sample document, okay? But you give it a name by clicking on the name in the top, and you can rename it, okay? And again, it basically tells you when changes are saved by right there. Everything's saved, okay? Then if you just want to type here, this document works just like Word. Okay, and spell check is there. If you have a misspelled word, you control right click on it and you get the correct word. You get the correct spelling if it's close enough. If it's very far off, you won't get it. But students can do their homework questions on here. They can do any type of presentations or anything that they need to do as a paper format. And then once it's done, it's automatically saved. And all they do is close the little browser window tab that is there. And when we look here, we have a sample document number 1, shows the time it was changed, and that's how document work. Okay, Eleni says only can do work online. No, not if you have an iPad, and I'll show you that in a minute. You can actually do some offline work if you have an iPad. Google Docs, and actually, if I remember right, there's also a version offline that will work on a PC as well, like a laptop. But I'll have to check on that and get back to you. Okay, I think you use Drive for your computer. Okay, Excel is basically the same way. The spreadsheet, it looks like an Excel spreadsheet. You can use the same type of functionality the same formula functionality that you would have in Excel. You can do the sums just by dragging and dropping and everything like that. Okay, so the same functionality is available there as you would have it in Excel. And I'll just put, again, I'll change the title to sample spreadsheet. Erlene wants to know if the docs can be emailed and printed off if it was a report. The answer is yes. Okay, you can send all of these things. I'll back out of here real quick. but every one of these can be printed. For example, if I went back into the sample spreadsheet, I can come over here. You see the little printer icon, and I can actually print it to one of my local printers that way. Same thing works from the doc standpoint or from the Word equivalent and everything. Also available to students is the presentation. Now, this is a PowerPoint equivalent, okay? I mean, if you look here, you can take different backgrounds and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the Porter and Chester standard background is not in here. I'm working on quite honestly, figuring out how to add that. But I mean, you have the ability to create a standard PowerPoint. So like if I wanted to create a PowerPoint or have a student create a PowerPoint, the same functionality is there. This should look really familiar. Okay? And then students can you can actually do the presentation right from here by clicking up the present, and it will go to a full screen. Okay? And you can actually go slide to slide. So it's relatively neat what it lets you do. So those are the three main, in terms of Office tools for Google applications, for the Google App Suite. Now you also have drawing. Okay, so if I have a drawing, if I want a student to do a drawing, let's say of a schematic, we can have students do drawings as well, and they can import anything from, let's say a document or a PDF file. They can actually import this. Okay, so again, this is all available there. So we have two questions that have come up. Can student import a doc into Google Drive? The answer is yes. And I'll show you in a sec how that can happen. And then if you have a PowerPoint on your desktop, can you open it in Google Drive? You have to upload it first, William or Bill, and then you can open it. Okay. So with importing, you see the little arrow here with my mouse over it right now, the upload button. You can actually click the upload button. You can upload an entire folder from your PC, or you can upload individual files. If I select to upload a file, let me go to where I know I have some files that are in a format that's usable. I just had some in a curriculum file. So if I want to upload a doc file, I can upload a document file. It uploads it. This just happens to be a syllabi master. And once it's here, I can click on it and I can open it. Okay, now if I want to open it, if I want to upload it and convert it, okay, that's also another step that I can do as well. So if I want to basically edit this, okay, I'll open it with Google Docs. And that just takes a minute because it's doing some formatting on the background. And now I can go ahead and edit it. And if I wanted to add something here, I could add something and do anything with it. Does that answer the two questions, Arlene and Bill? Okay. So the full functionality is there. Now, the other thing that's really neat about Google Application Suite is the fact that it is available on your iPad. Okay, once you have a .edu email address, you can actually go in on your iPad, and I just basically brought my iPad up on the screen. Okay, and you can go in on your iPad and log in and just about do anything like what we just did. Like if I wanted to pull the edit window up of that syllabi that I was just editing, okay, it's going to take a minute to load because that one's a really large document. But I can come in here, okay, and I can basically edit it, okay, and I need to come into my Google, okay, I need to come into my Google Drive app, which I have up, okay, and then I have the ability basically to do my editing and everything else like that there. But we're going to talk more about that when we talk about the Google Drive app. But I just want to make you aware that that's there. Okay. The other nice things that are available with the Google Apps Suite is we've occasionally had people who'd like to make a mailing list for their classes or something like that. So Google Groups is available, okay? So let's say if you have a group of students who'd like to work together on something, or you want them to work together, or you want to make a department group, okay? First of all, we have the ability within the mPortfolios app from Moodle, and we much prefer if you use that, okay? But if you want to have some sort of other mailing list that's tied to the .edu email addresses, you can click on Google Groups, okay, and you can actually create a group for a specific class or for specific students. We much prefer you keep it within Moodle, but I want you to know that this is there, okay, and it allows you to actually go through, create a group, have members, and stuff like that. The other app that's there, which is a really nice thing, again, is Google Sites. Now, Google Sites actually allows a student to create, or you, to create a web page that is freely shareable. Okay, so in Google Sites, you can come in, you can click Create, okay, and you can create different templates and you can give it a name of a site. So let's say if I wanted to have a class, okay, you type the name of your site in here. Try not to use spaces. Spaces cause problems. And you will see right down here under the site locator, and I'll pull this up a little bit larger, you will actually be able to see what the site's true address would be. Okay, in other words, what would the student, or what would you have to send people to? Okay. Now, it's actually a really neat thing because you have a template that you can use. You can select a theme, okay? So if I wanted to select like a background theme, okay, you have that. Then you can have some more options. You can give it categories and stuff like that. So Google Sites is something definitely you can use. And they have a lot of templates out there that makes this really easy. For example, if you click Schools and Education, you can actually do a classroom site. You can do project work areas. In other words, if you have a project that your class is working on. Okay, now, again, you have the ability to share the editing rights with people, but anybody on the internet can actually access these sites. So just be aware of that. It's not like mPortfolios. It's not like Mahara, where we have the ability to filter who can access and who can't. So if I wanted to create a site that's a classroom site, I click that. Okay, I filled everything out, and now I can just click Create. And what it's going to do, it's actually going to build a website for me. And we'll just let it go ahead and do that so you see what it comes up with. And this will just, again, this takes a minute because it's doing a lot of background work. Okay. And once you have this up here, you can basically, you can share it, okay? You can edit the page. You can add a new page if you wanted to, and there's a lot of things you can do with this. You click on edit the page, okay? You can actually go in here and just about edit anything you want on that page, okay? And it brings up the standard edit bars and everything else like that. And you cancel out of it or save it. So does anybody have any questions on any of the functionality that I've just gone over in terms of Google, in terms of the documents, the Excel, the PowerPoint equivalent, which is the presenter, the draw, the site, or the groups? Does anybody have anything that comes to mind? Go ahead and type the questions in here. And okay. Okay, one of the questions is there any way like to produce a brochure? Okay, you have to actually, and I know this, Eleni, I know this is an ongoing project, so you basically have to go into, your best way to do it, I think, is to go into create a document. Okay, and if I remember right, you almost have to, I think you have to actually do columns or just make sure it's in the right way. I would do it in a, I would just do it in a Word document and know that it's going to have to be put in 3 sides. Okay, I do know they have templates available that you can actually use as well, and we'd have to search for those because I'm pretty sure there's a template available. Okay, another question is, where do we go into Bugzilla to request an EDU email? I think the easiest way to do it is if you do a new bug, you can create a request student email and just say it's for an instructor and it's for you and give me the information. There's definitely a way to do it. Just make sure it comes to me. Okay, students create a doc on Drive. How do they submit them? Okay, well, it's actually relatively easy because if you have an open assignment, okay, let me go into, for example, I'm just going to go in here. If you have an assignment with a Dropbox, okay, and I'm just going to go into my home because there's a private file area, but the same will work on any assignment, and I'll go into this more in my next set in the Google Drive session. But if I go into manage my private file, okay, Gerald, just go into the Bugzilla for getting an EDU email address. Go into Bugzilla and add a bug for under student email address, and just say you're an instructor and give me your name and porterchester.com email address and campus, and we'll get that set up for you. But it has to go through Bugzilla. Okay, so I've gone into my home, manage private files, and then when you click add a file up here, and the same goes into the assignment, Dropbox, you can click on Google Drive. It's going to ask you to log in. Okay, it's going to give you a sign-in sheet for your Google, for whatever your Google account is. Once you have signed in, you can actually import any of the documents that are there into an assignment blank. For example, if I wanted to bring in, that syllabus that I was bringing in, I can now select that file and it will actually import it into Moodle. The same functionality will work in any assignment blank you have, any assignment Dropbox that allows an uploading of a file. Again, this is new functionality. I'm going to go into it more in the next, in the Google Drive webinar that we're doing, okay? But again, I needed to give everyone the overview of the Google Apps. Any other questions on Google Apps? Okay, so again, Google Apps, okay, if you go to Google and you can actually do the products and the Google Apps for Education, okay, you can get a page that looks like this. Now, the other thing you can do is this Google Apps for Education is really, really great because they actually have a good training program, okay? They have recorded webinars that shows you in much more detail than I can in a 20-minute call on how to use each one of the apps. Comment into the chat just so that everybody has it. But you can actually come into the Google Apps for Education page and you can get an overview of every single application that's available. Okay. You can also come down to training programs. Now, this is very important, okay, because there's some really good professional development here. You can come into training programs under the Google Apps for Education. You click on training programs. You can actually choose the introduction program, which is the Google Tools. Okay, then you can get a certification. Okay, you can get qualified as a Google educator by taking a test on the tools. Okay, it gives you a certification and it lists you as a Google educator. Then you can become a Google education trainer as well. And you learn about how to train students in using the Google Apps. So this is actually a really good thing, and I encourage people to do it. We're going to find that Google Apps are a continued process. They're getting more and more evolved every day, and they're not going to go away. So it's pretty important. Kathleen asked, where do we go to review the webinars you're giving? Okay, when you click on after each session is complete, okay, in other words, like after today, I'll upload the recordings from this one. And I'll be sending out to all the DOEs the links for these recordings, okay, because I have to have a chance to upload them. But we'll send the links out to the DOEs. So again, use the google.com edu training site, get certified, okay, you'll learn the basics, okay, you'll take a basic exam, then you'll learn about how to use them in the classroom, you'll take a certification exam, and then you can become a Google certified teacher and everything else like that. And this is all free to you. Okay. Ken says you lost sound. Ken, I think it's on your campus. Other questions? Okay, that was the introduction to Google Application Suite. If you have any questions, email is great. I'll be in Connecticut on some of the campuses in the next few weeks. Catch me if you need me to show you something. And everybody have a great afternoon. I will hang around for a few more minutes if anybody has any other questions. Just let me know in the question blank and I'll unmute you and we can actually talk. So, okay, have a great afternoon, everybody. This webinar is over.